When I just posted the lesson on the Charlie Crockett tune Wreck Me, I was calling out chord shapes C, A minor, F. And then I got to thinking, well, what if my viewers don't know those chords? I was just kind of assuming, oh, well, yeah, they know all these basic open position chords. That's not necessarily the case. So we're going to take a step back, get back to basics a little bit, and we're going to look at just open position chords, sometimes called cowboy chords, because all the early country kind of songwriters would use these open position chords. We're going to look at major triads, minor triads, major seventh, minor seventh, and dominant seventh chords in open positions. We could do others. We could do diminished chords. We could do suspended chords. But I want to give you what you're going to get the most mileage out of. Just doing those five, the two triads, the two seven chords, and the dominant chord, that's a lot of information to pack into a lesson across, 7 different chords, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're just going to focus on the chords that you're going to see in like 90% of music you're trying to learn. We're going to start with the E major triad. So we've got our root, the E, fifth, the octave, and the major third. And then we have the fifth again, and then the octave. And that's a triad, 1, 3, 5. Now don't disparage triads. Again, a lot of music snobs, they stick with seventh chords, and triads are for country bumpkins and blues players and whatever. My mom has been playing gospel piano for like 70 years, most of her life. She's 83 now. And she only plays triads. She comes from that old Southern Baptist country gospel roots where everything was just written in triads. She doesn't know 7 chords. She's never needed to know 7 chords. It doesn't apply to the music that she's been making all her life. So triads are absolutely worthwhile. They give you a certain tonality, a roots, Americana simpleness, earthiness that you don't get with the 7th chord. 7th chords are kind of more uptown and sophisticated sounding. That's the difference. So E major triad. Now, something you're going to notice, really cool thing about the way the guitar's laid out, if you take this exact same major triad shape and move everything up 1 string, like that, you would now have an A minor triad. Because the B string, everything is moved up a half step. So what down here was a major third, right? Played with our first finger right here. Oops, sorry. We move it up, and that B string makes it a minor third. So you don't have to learn a new shape. You just have to be aware that your shape, your major triad shape, becomes your minor triad shape when you move it from the E to the A string. And we're going to see that with other chords as well, where you kind of, the chord quality shifts, but the chord shape stays the same. So that's E major triad. If I wanted to play the E minor triad, I would simply raise up this major third and get the minor third. And there is the E minor triad. Now, if I wanted to play, let's go back, put the major back down. If I wanted to play a major 7th chord, I would have to replace this octave. This finger's playing the octave. And the note right below it, right there, is the 7th. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. One, you can just omit the 5th. right? That would fall right there, and just because you have the fifth up here, so you don't necessarily need it. Or you could put your pinky down. You have to really arch it to clear the other strings. And there's a E major 7th chord. If you wanted to play an E minor 7th chord, right? We take our third up, and then we take our root, our octave, and raise that up, and that gives us a minor 7. Remember, the guitar, if we put this finger down to get the fifth, the guitar is tuned to an E minor 7th chord. Root, 5, minor 7, minor 3rd, 5th, root. Now, if we want to play an E dominant 7 chord, okay, well, we're going to need our major 3rd down, but we're going to need a minor 7th. Right? There's the E dominant 7 shape. Now, let's go to A. Okay, let's just move up. So A major is these 3 notes right here. Open A, and then these 3 notes. There's different ways of playing it. You could play, it's kind of the more traditional grip. Let me get it on the camera better. There. There. That's kind of like if you look at chord books. That's the traditional way. It's much easier just to put your finger down and bar it. It's 100 times easier to grab it that way. And when you see bar chords that are of the A shape, they have a root, and then they just smash down the 3rd finger, and that gives you that same shape right there. So that's an A major triad. Root, 5th, major 3rd. Let's look at the A minor triad, right? We just looked at that before. It looks like the E major shape. Root, 5th, octave, minor 3rd, 5th. Let's go back to the major chord, right? We did the major triad. Now let's make it a major 7th chord. So I've got my root, got my 5th, got my octave, got my major 3rd. So I need to get rid of this octave and make it a major 7th, which is going to be right here. There would be your A major 7th chord in open position. Now, if I want to play E minor 7th, well, my E minor chord triad looked like this. So I've got to get rid of this octave right here. Just raise it up, and you've got a minor 7th. Now that shape is the exact same shape as your E7. All right, E7, move the same shape up, A minor 7. Last chord we need is our dominant 7. So let's start with our major chord to begin with. It's always best if you start with the major chord, then you can visualize what makes it minor, what makes it a major 7, what makes it a minor 7, what makes it dominant. The core notes come from the major triad. So we start with our major triad, and then we adjust from there. So the dominant chord is going to look like this. So we have root, 5th, and then we used to have an octave right there. We just raise that octave up to our minor 7th, and then we put our major third down, and now we have a dominant chord. A dominant. Now let's look at the D chord. The D major triad looks like this. Standard D cowboy chord. Alright, looks like that. Now we have our root, our fifth, we have our root again, and then we have a major third. So let's make that a minor triad. It's going to require a little bit of shifting. Okay, we're going to keep this fifth, but we're going to play it with our second finger. We're going to keep this root, but we're going to play it with our pinky, and we're going to make the major third a minor third down here at the first fret. Okay, so that is a D minor triad. Let's make it a D major 7 chord. All right, we go back to our original triad shape. We've got our 1, our 5. Now we've got to get rid of that octave. Got to make it a major 7th. So if we went down a fret, there would be our major 7th. There's our major 3rd. So it's the exact same shape as the A major when we barred that A major down here. If we do it up here, going from the D, we get a D major 7. Root, 5th, major 7, major 3rd. Now if we want to make it a minor 7, D minor 7, well, start again with our major triad for reference. We got our 5th. We got to make this note come down here to this minor 7th right there. And the minor 3rd is going to be right above it. So we need our 5th, the minor 7, and the minor 3rd. Just like that. Root, 5th, minor 7, minor 3rd. And there is your D minor 7th chord. If we want to play a dominant chord, right? There's our basis. We got to make this minor while keeping this major 3rd. So we shift down to this shape, and we've got root, 5th, minor 7th, major 3rd, D dominant. So there's your D dominant chord. So let's take a look at the F chord. Okay, it's going to be hard to bar. Barring an F chord on the first fret of an acoustic guitar is just difficult. It requires a lot of hand strength. It's just an unwieldy chord. Most people play the upper portion of the chord because it's a little more clear and it's easier to fret than this lower version. But it's easier to see the chords and make the connection with the lower versions. Plus, if you know the lower versions, you can just move them up the neck, right? They're not going to change. It's just like the dominant chords we did. The shapes will stay the same up the neck. So here's an F major triad. Right? We got our E major triad. So we're just doing the exact same thing. Just we moved this up, and then we put our first finger down to bar it. So we barred it and played the exact same notes or shapes. Root, 5th, root, major 3rd, 5th, root. Now, if we want to make that a minor chord, we just raise the major 3rd. And we've got an F minor triad. If we want to make it a major seventh, we put our major third back down, and we're going to get rid of our octave, okay? And we need to grab that note right there. I generally play major scales or major chords like this. I just jump over the A string. It's kind of like the jazz grip we did here, where you're just kind of deadening the A string and really more focusing on the top part of the grip. Because here's your root, but you got the root on top. So the top part of the grip has the 7, 3, 5, and root. So major triad, minor triad, major 7. If you want to get the 5th, again, you sneak that pinky in there. Dang, that's a hard chord to play down there. If you want to play a minor 7th, super easy. We start with our basic major triad. We raise the 3rd, and we raise the pinky. And we have the minor 7th under the bar. So now we've got root, 5th, minor 7th, minor 3rd. So there's an F minor 7 chord. If we want to make it dominant 7, we revert back to our caged method. And we're going to use our E shape, right, that we did with all our dominant chords. So here's the E shape, E dominant. And we're just going to bar this and play that shape with these 2 fingers. So there's your F dominant 7 chord. Now let's go to, let's just do G. I might as well just move on up alphabetically. The G chord is, you can play it a couple of different ways. One of the standard ways is to play it with the 2nd finger on the root. And you've got root, major 3rd, 5th, root, 5th, root. This grip is often preferred by people because it sets you up automatically to be in the shape for the major scale with your root on your finger on the 2nd finger on the root. You could also play it this way with the 3rd finger on the root. Why would you want to do that? Well, it depends. If you're playing a C chord above it, the 4, it's much easier to just shift. Right? Then trying to move from the 2nd finger to the 3rd finger. 2nd finger, 3rd finger. You just go 3rd finger, 3rd finger, 3rd finger, 3rd finger. Plus, a lot of times you'll hear a movement harmonically in a song where it'll play a major chord and it'll play the same chord dominant. It'll move the 7th down to set up the next chord. And so if you're playing this G this way, and you just put your 1st finger down and raise your pinky up, there's the G7. So you can do that harmonic movement, major, dominant, right? And then it sets up the C chord. All right, so that's G major triad. Next would be the G minor triad. We're gonna have to kind of shift for this. We can't play it like this or like this, because if we raise up this major 3rd to get the minor 3rd, we're stuck with the B string, the open B, which is a major 3rd. We can't go any lower and get the minor 3rd in an open chord. So if we want to play the G minor triad, we've got to bar it. Root, 5th, octave, minor 3rd, 5th octave. There's the G minor triad. Let's play G major 7th. Well, we've got our root, major third. We were playing the open fifth. The easiest way to play a major 7 is to take that fifth on the D string and make it your major 7th right there. If you want to play a 4-note chord, put your pinky down and you have the octave of the major third. So there's no fifth in this chord, but you don't need it. The chord tones that define the chord quality are the 3rd and the 7th. So you've got root, major 3rd, major 7. So that's a major 7 chord. You could also play it this way. It's kind of, I don't like it. It's uncomfortable for my hand, but it works technically. What you're doing is you're taking this open chord, major triad, and you're taking this octave and you're putting your first finger down on the 2nd fret to get the major 7th. So you have an open G major 7, and you don't have to shift up to the 2nd finger to get it. 2 different options for the chord. So we did the G major triad, we did the G minor triad. Let's do the G minor 7. Again, the easiest way to do it is to bar it. You know, if you just bar and have a power chord, the rest of them are minor 7, minor 3rd. Easiest way to play a minor 7 chord. Root, 5th, minor 7, minor 3rd, 5th root. Okay? If you want to play, well, you can't play in an open position because we've got the B. You can't get the minor 3rd. You can play the dominant 7 in open position. We talked about that a second ago. Here's your G with the root on top, and we replace it with the minor 7. And so we have the major 3rd, minor 7 for the dominant chord. So that's one way to play your G open position dominant chord. You could also use the E shape and play it closed position, like that. Let's do B and C. So to play the B major triad, it's kind of like the A, right? But we're gonna bar it and then play this part with our 3rd finger. So we're gonna bar the B and then mash that 3rd finger down on these 3 strings, the D, G, and B. So we have root, 5th, root, major 3rd. So there's a B major triad. So let's look at the minor triad, okay? Remember with the A, it looked like this. So we're going to bar it, just like we kind of would with our caged method. Put the finger on the B, play those same 3 notes, like that, with those fingers. And there's our minor triad, B minor. If we want to play B major 7, we've got to take this octave and move it down 1 to that major 7. And then we've got to get the major 3rd up here on the B string. So it looks like that. Root, 5th, major 7, major 3rd. So there's a B major 7 chord. So we want to make it a minor chord. Let's just do it without moving. Here's your major 7th, raise it up, it's a minor 7th. Here's your major 3rd, raise it up, place this finger down on the major, minor 3rd. So there's a B minor 7 chord. Again, it's the E7 shape, played up on the A string. Remember we played the E7? And then we played it on the A, and it became A minor 7. Well, we're just barring it and doing the same thing. So it's A minor 7 shape, B minor 7 shape. Now let's play B dominant. We should already know this one from our dominant lesson. The A chord looks like this, dominant. So if we bar it on the B, we've got root, 5th, minor 7, major 3rd. B dominant 7 chord. Another way to play that is off the 2nd finger. You have the root, 3rd, minor 7, and then you can grab the 9 or sharp 9, the Hendrix chord. Listen to Purple Haze, he kind of made that chord famous. So that's another way to play the B7. 9 times out of 10, that's the way I'm going to play it, because B7 is the 5 of E. So you're playing in E. It's harder to jump up and bar the B7 there. It's easier to just grab the B7 that way. You're still in the neighborhood of, because remember, if you're on the 5, you're going to be going to the 1. So what's the easiest transition shape? It's much easier to do it that way than to go, right? It has extra movement. So let's look at C. That'll be our last chord, and we will have done all of them. C major triad. So a typical C cowboy chord, root, 3rd, 5th, root, 5th. So we can't play the C minor triad in open position. Here's the major triad. If we move this major 3rd down to the minor 3rd, then we're taking our first finger off of the root, which leaves the B open, which is a major 7th. We can't have a minor 3rd and a major 7th. It's just not, it's an ugly sounding chord. It's not going to work. So we need to shift. Okay? So no problem. What is our simple minor triad shape? This one. For chords based on the A string. So it's an A minor triad. Same shape as the G major. Just move it up, it becomes minor. So if we want to do the C major 7, it's actually pretty easy. Here's our triad, and we just take this octave up on the B string with our first finger, raise it up. Now we have a major 7th. Root, 3rd, 5th, major 7, 5th. Very easy way to play a C major 7 chord. C major, C major, C major 7. Now let's look at the C dominant chord. Easiest way to play that, here's our triad, right? And we're going to take this 5th, the G string, and we're going to put our pinky down. And that gives us a minor 7th. So now we have root, 3rd, minor 7, root. Again, no 5th, but we don't need it. So we've looked at all of the chords: major triad, major 7th, minor 7th, dominant 7, in the kind of open positions. Let me show you how I would practice them. So the 2 chord progressions you're going to see the most often are a 1-4-5 and a 2-5-1. Learning 2-5-1s and 1-4-5 chord progressions get you the most out of your chords. And then you can hear the relationships between the chord, the 2 chord minor, 5 chord dominant, one chord, major, etc. Let's kind of look at that. Let's look at some 1-4-5s. All right. Here's how I would practice chords. Generally, 3 chord groups are around a key center. So let's say E. Let's just do triads, okay? For right now. E major is the 1. The 4 chord is going to be A major. The 5 chord is going to be B7, which is then going to go back to 1. So the way I would practice those, I would rock back and forth between the 1 and the 4. And just do that. Get used to that. And then I would rock from maybe the 4 to the 5. And then once I have it, I'm comfortable moving from one chord to the next, I would play a 1-4-5. Maybe a blues progression, right? 1, 4, 1, 4, 5, 4, 1, 5. Or you could play more of a country progression, a 1-5-4. But in this case, the 5 is going to be a triad. It's not going to be a 7th chord, generally. So you would have, like, you know, E, B, to the 4, A, 1. B, A, 1. Let's do a 2-5-1 in E. So we would have E, we would have F sharp minor, we would have B dominant, F sharp, minor, you could also start it on the minor if you want it to be a minor progression. 2, 5, 1. 2, 5, 1. You know, learn chords in key centers. Start with E, E, A, B. Go to A, A, D, E. You know, learn the 1-4-5s in all the keys. C, F, G, right? G, C, D. And then once you know the 1-4-5s and you're comfortable with that, start learning a bunch of 2-5-1s, right? And then mix them together, and you're writing songs. So that's been an introduction to the basic chords in open position and how they relate around a key center. So good luck practicing those. Get those under your fingers. Get them in your ears. Start learning to really distinguish between major triad, major 7th, minor triad, minor 7th, dominant 7th. Because when you train your ears, then learning songs by ear becomes effortless, you know?
Yep.
So thanks for stopping by. I hope this lesson was helpful. We'll see you next time.